Welcome to the deep dive. We are jumping straight into, well, one of the biggest biological questions, really.
Yeah, the big one. Is aging just
Necessary.
inevitable? Something we just have to accept?
Or is there maybe an internal clock, something we can, read, understand, maybe even adjust?
That's exactly what we're diving into today. The mechanism scientists are increasingly seeing as maybe the primary biological clock.
Telomeres.
Telomeres, exactly.
Yeah.
We've looked at sources explaining, how cells, the DNA, the important genetic code, that's like the actual fibers woven into the lace itself.
Got it. So the telomeres.
They're the little plastic tips on the ends. Aglets, I think they're called.
Aglets, yeah. The clear plastic bits.
Exactly those. And they have one job. Stop the ends of the shoelace, your essential DNA, from fraying and falling apart.
Okay, so they're purely protective buffers.
Precisely. Against, well, catastrophic loss of information.
That makes sense as an analogy, but it brings up a question. Why does the cell even need protection? It's this amazing microscopic machine. Why can't it just copy its DNA perfectly every time it divides?
Because it fundamentally can't. That's the crux of it. It's a sort of inherent limitation in the copying process.
Not right. It can't.
Not perfectly, not right to the very, very end. Think about it. When a cell divides, it's copying something like 6 billion base pairs of DNA.
That's a huge amount of information.
It is. And the machinery, the enzymes doing the copying, they're incredible, but they physically can't replicate the last little segment at the tip of the chromosome strand.
Huh. So it's like using a photocopier that always cuts off the last half inch of the page?
That's a perfect way to put it, exactly.
Yeah.
Every single time the cell replicates, a tiny bit at the very end isn't copied. It's just lost.
And if that lost bit was crucial code?
It would be disastrous. The cell could malfunction, die, or worse.
Okay, so the body knows this is going to happen. It anticipates the copying error.
It seems like it, yeah. It's built in a solution. It knows a small piece will be lost, so it basically puts something disposable there.
The telomeres.
The telomeres. They are essentially sacrificial. They're made of repetitive, non-essential DNA sequences tacked onto the ends.
Designed to be clipped off.
Exactly. Designed to be the part that gets shorter during replication. You might lose, say, 50 to 100 base pairs each time.
But the important stuff, the main DNA blueprint.
Stays perfectly intact,
Yeah.
protected, division after division. It's really quite a clever bit of damage control.
It is clever, but it also reveals the clock, doesn't it? Because that sacrificial material isn't infinite.
Precisely. It's a system with a limited lifespan built in.
So let's get to that. How does this system become the clock of aging? What happens when you start running low on those plastic tips?
Well, the connection is stark. Telomere length really seems to dictate the cell's fate, and by extension, contributes significantly to organismal aging.
Right.
As we live, as our cells divide, those telomeres just gradually get shorter and shorter. They fray, they diminish, like a biological odometer.
Ticking down with every division.
Yeah. And eventually, they reach a critically short length.
Because at that point,
The cell faces a crisis. The essential DNA is now exposed, vulnerable to damage during the next replication cycle.
okay, and the sources we looked at said there are basically 3 outcomes when this happens. None of them great for staying young and healthy.
That's right. The first path is called apoptosis.
Programmed cell death.
Exactly. The cell basically recognizes it's too damaged, too risky to continue, so it triggers a self-destruct sequence.
Sounds dramatic, but maybe the safest option for the body overall. Prevents errors?
Often, yes, it removes a potentially dangerous cell. But the second option is senescence.
Senescence, that sounds less immediately fatal for the cell itself.
It is. The cell doesn't die, but it completely stops dividing. It just quits.
Yeah.
Enters a kind of permanent retirement.
Okay, so it's not dividing anymore? Problem solved.
Not really, because these senescent cells, they don't just sit there quietly. They often become quite toxic.
Toxic? How?
They start spewing out inflammatory signals, other damaging molecules into the surrounding tissue. People sometimes call them zombie cells.
Zombie cells. Because they're not dead, but not really working right either and causing trouble.
Exactly. They hang around, don't function properly, and contribute to chronic inflammation, which is a huge driver of aging and many age-related diseases.
Wow. Okay, so that really paints a picture of aging as system breakdown, driven by these dysfunctional cells.
That's a big part of it, yeah.
And the third outcome, you said it introduces real terror.
That's the malfunction. If the cell tries to divide anyway, even with critically short telomeres and exposed DNA,
It makes a bad copy.
a terrible copy, potentially. You get chromosome instability, broken DNA strands. And that can be the spark, the very beginning of a tumor, or a fully fledged cancer cell.
Right. So short telomeres aren't just about stopping division. They can actually lead to dangerous division if things go wrong.
Precisely.
And there's research backing this up, comparing cells.
Oh, absolutely. Numerous studies show this correlation. Cells with short telomeres tend to be non-regenerative, senescent, and come from older or less healthy individuals.
Whereas longer telomeres.
Correlate with better cell regeneration, slower observed biological aging. The link is pretty strong.
Okay, so if the length of the protective cap is so crucial, it leads to the obvious million-dollar question, right?
Why can't we just make them longer?
Yeah, why can't we just, I don't know, refill the plastic tips, keep them long?
Well, that leads us perfectly into the next section, because there is an enzyme that can do exactly that.
Ah,
It's called telomerase. And it sounds like the fountain of youth,
okay.
but it comes with a pretty serious catch.
Telomerase. Okay, tell us about it. What does it do?
It's really quite extraordinary. It's a protein, an enzyme, that can stop telomeres from shortening.
Stop them.
And not just stop them, it can actually add DNA sequence back onto the ends of the chromosomes. It rebuilds the telomere.
Wow. So, theoretically, if you had this active in your cells,
They could potentially divide many, many more times without losing protection, maybe even indefinitely in theory. Sounds amazing, right?
yeah,
The elixir of life.
it absolutely does sound like that. But you mentioned a catch. The body seems wary of this enzyme.
Extremely wary, it seems.
Yeah.
The sources are clear. In most adult human cells, telomerase activity is heavily, heavily suppressed. It's mostly switched
It's
off.
switched off.
But why, if
Yeah.
it protects our DNA?
It's that risk-reward calculation again. The body limits its activity very specifically.
To which cells?
Primarily to cells that absolutely must keep regenerating throughout life. Think stem cells, which repair tissues,
Okay, that makes sense.
and also our reproductive cells, sperm and eggs. We need those to maintain their integrity over time. Right. But in, say, my skin cells, my liver cells,
Mostly off. Very little activity. Suppressed.
and the reason for suppressing it is to avoid that third outcome we talked about,
Yeah.
the malfunction.
Exactly. To avoid creating immortal cells where we don't want them. Because there's one other major place where telomeres often get switched back on.
Let me guess. Cancer cells.
Bingo. Cancer cells frequently hijack this telomerase system. They reactivate it, turn it up to full blast
Why?
to achieve immortality. It allows them to bypass the normal cellular aging process, the limit imposed by telomere shortening. They can just keep dividing and dividing, forming a tumor.
So telomerase is what allows cancer cells to become effectively immortal?
It's a key mechanism for many cancers, yeah.
Okay, that completely changes this perspective. Thinking about artificially activating this enzyme, it suddenly sounds less like anti-aging and more like,
Playing with fire.
yeah.
Potentially pouring gasoline on any hidden embers of cancer already in your body.
Yeah. If you had some therapy that just indiscriminately switched telomerase on everywhere,
You could be giving precancerous cells the exact tool they need to become fully malignant and life-threatening. The risk for general anti-aging is considered far too high right now.
that's a sobering thought. But science rarely stops at too risky, does it? It looks for nuances for specific applications.
True. And that brings us to some really interesting work, like from Ana Maria Blasco's group in Spain.
Right, at the CNIO. What did they find? Does it offer some hope?
What's really key about their research is the context. They weren't trying to make healthy people live forever. They were studying diseases caused by critically short telomeres.
Like genetic disorders where telomere maintenance is broken from the start.
Exactly. Conditions like dyskeratosis congenita, where patients experience symptoms that look like incredibly accelerated aging because their telomeres are just too short right from the get-go.
So they were trying to fix a defect, not enhance a normal system.
Precisely. And they found that in animal models of these diseases, administering telomerase could actually improve the condition, repair some of the cellular damage.
Okay. And the crucial part, did it cause more cancer?
They reported not seeing an associated increase in cancer rates in those specific therapeutic contexts.
That is a crucial distinction.
It suggests that maybe, just maybe, there could be targeted therapeutic uses. Correcting a dangerous shortage might be different from trying to artificially extend normal length indefinitely.
Right. It shifts the goal from eternal youth to treating specific telomere-related diseases. That sounds much more like practical medicine.
It does. It's a much more nuanced picture.
Okay, so for those specific conditions, there might be a future for telomerase therapy. But for the rest of us, just trying to live healthy lives, what can we actually do now based on this telomere clock idea?
Well, the goal is kind of twofold, isn't it?
Hmm.
We want to protect the telomere lengths we have in our healthy cells, slow down the shortening.
While not doing anything that might encourage telomerase activity in any potentially cancerous cells?
Exactly. And the good news is, a lot of the advice aligns with general healthy living recommendations. But now we understand the why a bit better, the mechanism involving these telomeres.
And the sources seem to really emphasize one factor, something often brushed off as just mental health.
Stress, chronic excessive stress.
Why is that so high on the list for telomere health?
Because chronic stress leads to sustained release of hormones like cortisol, and it drives systemic inflammation. Both of those processes are known to directly impact telomere maintenance and accelerate shortening.
So inflammation literally wears down the telomeres faster.
It appears so. Studies have directly linked chronic psychological stress to shorter telomere length over time. It's not just in your head, it's physically affecting this biological clock.
Wow. So managing stress through whatever works for you, mindfulness, exercise, sleep, isn't just about feeling better, it's about physically protecting your DNA's protective caps.
That seems to be the implication, yes.
Okay, what about diet? We always hear eat well. Does nutrition play a specific role here?
It does. Partly by controlling inflammation, of course, but also by providing the building blocks and cofactors needed for DNA repair and the limited telomerase activity we do want in our stem cells.
So specific nutrients.
Sources often mention things like folate, B vitamins, antioxidants, nutrients found in, a balanced whole foods diet. They help cells manage oxidative stress, which is another thing that chews away at telomeres.
Anti-inflammatory, nutrient-dense foods. Makes sense.
Yeah, nothing revolutionary, but the telomere link adds another reason why it's important.
And then there's avoidance. Things we should actively not do because they damage telomeres.
Right. Again, it's the usual suspects, but the mechanism is clearer now. Tobacco smoke, excessive alcohol, recreational drugs.
What did they do?
They flood the system with toxins and free radicals, creating massive oxidative stress. This directly damages DNA and accelerates telomere shortening in your healthy cells.
You're basically forcing your cells to use up their protective caps faster.
Pretty much, yeah. Burning through that buffer prematurely.
Okay, so putting it all together, this deep dive really confirms that aging isn't just random wear and tear. There's this elegant but finite molecular clock.
A clock based on sacrificing part of its own structure, the telomere, to protect the absolutely essential information, the DNA blueprint.
But tampering with it, trying to rewind it with something like telomerase is incredibly risky because of the cancer connection.
Exactly. Immense promise, but potentially catastrophic danger if misused.
So this leads to a final thought, doesn't it? Something the source has hinted at.
Yeah, if telomeres are the physical caps, and we know things like stress and diet can affect how quickly they shorten, how does that actually happen? How does life experience talk to our DNA?
Right. If the telomere is the plastic tip, and maybe chronic stress is like a pair of scissors snipping at it,
Yeah.
what controls the scissors? What's telling the cell to let the telomere shorten faster or slower?
It really gets into the next layer, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The layer of genetic control called epigenetics. How does our environment, our lifestyle, actually change the way our genes are expressed?
Including the genes involved in maintaining these telomeres. How does epigenetics influence how quickly those protective caps shrink? That feels like the next big question.
It absolutely is, and it's something for you, the listener, to think about. How your choices, your environment, even your state of mind
Might be physically influencing the integrity of the DNA code inside every single one of your cells. It's quite profound, really.
It really is.
Thank you for diving deep with us today. We'll explore more next time.